He said you were a for real doctor, like we had a fake doctor on here before. Oh. Oh, Art, that's another show. That's another show, Art. That's another show. Wait a minute. That's another show. Hold on. I gotta reel him in, Doctor. I gotta reel him in, Dr. Deborah. I gotta reel him in. Moving forward.
So I'm currently at Michigan State University in Flint. I'm literally sitting at my kitchen counter in Flint. I'm the Associate Dean of Public Health Integration in our College of Medicine. I came here in the midst of the Flint water crisis as an epidemiologist to make sure that we could get good data to help us both understand the impact of the water crisis, but also to figure out what solutions were needed to mitigate and remedy the impacts of the water crisis. And as you know, I have accepted a new position that starts July 1, and I am the incoming dean of the NYU School of Global Public Health. Wow. All right. I already know how to get it started, but I don't want to get it started. But I want to get it started. I'm going to let you get it started. And then I'm going to come in and get it started. But
so you know, I always say this all the time, you know, to people that you know, to talk about the water and talk about the water crisis. We are still in a crisis. This is what I want everybody to realize, and the people that are not in Flint that are listening, that we are 8 years in still with a crisis, right? With that being said, and being that you do live in Flint, do you mind if I call you Dr. Deborah?
You can call me Deborah.
Okay.
Dr. Deborah.
No, I want to call you Dr. Deborah. Okay. So, Dr. Deborah, has this affected you more than just educating about it and things like that? Has it affected you personally or someone close to you in your family? Has this affected you at all?
I moved my children to Flint in the midst of the water crisis. My son was a rising senior in high school. My daughter was a rising freshman. I moved them here. My kids had never had skin problems. My daughter has very long, beautiful hair. And after being here less than a year, both her and my oldest daughter, who was just visiting, lost significant chunks of hair. Everybody developed skin problems. most of us developed some gastrointestinal problems, some dental problems, things that we had never dealt with before. We personally dealt with, and then my next door neighbor, who doesn't live there anymore, she said, "I'm done with this." Her daughter dealt with significant skin infections. Another very good girlfriend of mine, I actually lived in Flint as a teenager, so I wasn't new to Flint. I went to Flint Northern, go Vikings. And a very a very good friend of mine, her son, had a pimple on his face. And he popped that pimple, and that became an entry point. And he washed his face in the shower and got a staph infection on his face, which has left him with a big light patch on his face. So I was personally impacted, and I know a lot of people also who were personally impacted. I live in the home of Pamela Loving Copeland. Pamela Loving, if you knew her, to me, she was like a champion for Flint. She used to run Michigan Works. Her husband, William Copeland, during the water crisis, developed cancer and multiple cancers and died within like 4 months of his diagnosis, which is unheard of. And Miss Loving actually just passed earlier this year. So, yeah, like I tell people all the time, this is real. This is not something trivial. And honestly, I underestimated because the data that was available to me wasn't telling the full story. I can say that now, but I underestimated the impact of what it would mean to move myself and my children here. So, yeah, we've been personally impacted, and many of my friends and chosen family have been too.
So with that being said, and so dealing with those things, and now you coming into it as a doctor in the educational part of it. What was the role that you were playing early on, and what's the role that you're playing right now?
Yeah, so I want to be clear. The water crisis was the thing that really brought me here.
Okay.
Because I had never experienced anything like it. When I lived in Flint, I moved to Flint in 1988. I was a freshman in high school. And I got a world-class education at Flint Northern. I was in their magnet program. I did half my classes at Northern, half at Central. When I moved back to the DC area, I was so much further ahead than my peers in Maryland because the educational system in Flint was just extraordinary. The only house that my mama ever owned was at 1637 Pontiac Street, right a block over from the corner of Welsh and DuPont. When I went to that house, it was practically falling down. It is better now. It is better. And we can talk about that and how people need to access and how we get better information to people to access some of the resources that they need to restore and repair their homes, to do lead abatement and all of that. The house that was on the corner from me actually had burned to the ground. So when I came here just to visit, I had no intention. I was a professor at Johns Hopkins University School of Public Health, #1 school of public health in the world. I was a professor there. I was happy. I was doing community engaged work in Baltimore and still do. And I came here and I couldn't believe how the city had started to come apart at the seams. I couldn't believe what the only house my mama ever owned looked like. I couldn't believe how many vacant houses there were relative to when I lived here, 20 years earlier. It was like I was blown. I went to Northern. I couldn't believe what my school looked like. All the windows are broken. There's trees growing through the inside of the school and the structure. This place where I got this world-class education that prepared me and my peers for these major roles in health and engineering and medicine and all of that. And I was like, this is crazy. They poisoned the whole city. I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta go. And I remember having a conversation with my kids, we gotta go.
Yeah.
They need Black and brown people. They need people with the credentials, and they need people with the fight and the heart to actually do the work.
Yeah.
So what I had been doing before that was mostly focused on substance abuse, violence, and mental health. I've still done much of that work in Flint. So I was a part of the team that started the Ceasefire program in Baltimore. Programs to convert vacant houses into sellable properties and to lessen the process for people to be able to buy those properties with clear titles and things like that. I've been doing a lot of stuff, kind of in that area. And I've done some of that work in Flint. But I basically came to Flint and said, I will now become a generalist, not a specialist. And what we do at Michigan State and in the Division of Public Health is truly community partner and in some aspects community driven. So people like Art, he says, well, I don't know why I should say that, but I really work for the people. So my thing is, where am I needed? What do you need me for? Yeah. And I basically do what community asks us.
Okay. So you talked about some of the programming and that. So when you had gotten here, because of the water crisis and started working with it, and you seen the conditions of the house and the houses around you, and that, how were you able to find out and find those resources to help you get the house back in a state where you could it would be habitable?
Yeah, so a couple things. So one, somebody was living in the house, had purchased the house for $5,000. I couldn't believe that somebody had purchased my mama's house for $5,000.
Oh wow, okay.
And there are multiple programs. There were programs, and one still operates from the state. Flint became eligible for a lot of resources. The problem was a lot of people didn't know how to access those resources. So through lead abatement, the owner of the home was able to get the home, the siding on the outside of the home redone. The windows were redone. That changed the exterior facade of the home immediately. And it also helps to stabilize the home, right? It's like not having on a good winter coat in the dead of winter, right? The siding and all that on the house is a protective mechanism to help protect the house. So all of that has been replaced on that house through this lead abatement program. And through lead abatement, you can get windows replaced and you can also get siding replaced.
Oh.
As far as my research work, these are all competed dollars. There were no handout dollars for my program of research. So before I even started, I said, if I'm going to come here, I need resources. So Michigan State University said, okay, we'll give you what they call a startup research fund. So they gave me a couple $100,000 that would allow me to hire staff if I needed and to do some community engaged projects. But the rest I had to wrangle up my own supper. And so I've been a grant woman my whole career, a soft money funded researcher. So I write grants. And I've written many grants for many organizations, big, small churches in this community. And I wrote my own grants to fund my own research. The biggest grant that I wrote and received at the time, because we now got other things going, but was what's called the Flint Center for Health Equity Solutions. And that is a fully community partnered center that has two projects attached to it. One of them is called Strengthening Flint Families, where we implement evidence-based programs for families dealing with addiction. We were instrumental in starting what's called the Flint Peer Recovery Court. We did that in partnership with the Flint Odyssey House, which is really a stake in the ground for substance abuse treatment services for this city and its residents. And then we had another project called the Church Challenge that was done in partnership with New Jerusalem Church and Elder Sarah Bailey to bring nutrition education, nutrition support, and physical activity support to residents to maintain both their weight and their hypertension.
Oh, wow.
So that is correct. Let me jump back to this, right? I was talking about that. I was reading where like PFAS, water, all these different chemicals is breaking down our immune system, and that we are susceptible to COVID. A lot of people don't know this. Did you hear about that? Yeah, so many of these waterborne pathogens do impact your immune system. And we already know a weakened immune system will increase the risk, not only that you will contract COVID, because there are a lot of people who've been exposed but don't actually acquire the disease. Remember, it's virus and disease. So think about HIV and AIDS. HIV is the virus. AIDS is the disease caused by the virus HIV. So we got a virus called SARS-CoV-2. that causes the disease COVID-19. So if your immune system is weakened, your body might actually be exposed. You might not ever really develop enough viral load or get enough viral replication to actually develop the disease of COVID-19. These will be the people who get exposed but will continually test negative, even though they've had known exposure. Their spouse, I know a lot of people who the spouse got COVID, they slept in the same bed, they were very close to one another, and one got it and one didn't. So a weakened immune system will increase the chances that you'll get COVID. It also increases the chances that you will get sicker from COVID. Why? Because your immune system is your fighting response. So it's like getting in the ring monster and having one hand tied behind your back. So absolutely, those waterborne pathogens, and not just the actual biological pathogens, but the stress that the Flint water crisis caused, which, as Satara said, that's still alive and real for people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people ask me all the time, you say Flint, people go, oh, how's the water? I'm like, it depends on who you ask and where you live.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I can't drink this water without filtering from the tap. If I don't consider it water. And, you know, just because we're testing home and it says that we're 4 parts per billion under the MPL or, you know, the land company, as they call it. That test or those samples to me because you get to pick and choose which house you go to. Because it has to be a tier 1 worst case scenario. We just know the majority of the landline, so we don't have tier 1 anymore. So we go to tier 2. And that's the motion. So now church has 3,102 parts per billion of lead in their mind, but they can't use that because it was sitting too long. And, you know, it was during COVID, and wasn't nobody going to church. So we're not going to use that. That's the same thing that got us to the right. So my issue here is that we should be saying water is safe until we do a full-out testing of everything at almost every house. At least, so they was doing 600 hours in the system when it first happened. They called it six homes, and it was 600. Now they only doing 6. So, I mean, I'm 36,000 homes. I can just say I have 67 this way. Yeah, so this is the problem. So what we do need is citywide systematic testing. It's probably financially not feasible to test every single home, right? But a nice systematic, it's called a stratified random probability sample. You should stratify the city into smaller units based on risk, right? Because people's houses tend to be similar to the houses right around them, right? Typically, home age will be very similar to houses on the same block or in the same cluster of blocks, right? Then there's information like where are they on the water delivery system, right? It's a complex thing because there's the water that comes out of your tap, which is also the most important thing. That's what has to be tested. What has to be tested is the water that's coming out of people's taps. Why? Because that's the water that people are being exposed to. That's the water they're drinking, cooking with, bathing and showering with, washing their hands with, like that. So we've had some things that were done that I think violate basic standards of systematic testing. We really haven't done that. And so nobody can really say with certainty. And then, of course, there's the obvious conflict of interest in that many of the people who are leading the testing are also the people who being deemed culpable in the onset and exacerbation and continuation of the water crisis in the first place.
Mm.
So how are you going to be the criminal
My,
and
my.
the, the reporter at the same time? Imagine the criminal leading and writing the articles from the newspaper reporting the news. You committed the crime and you're the news reporter. So that's the problem that we have here. The agencies and the people who were already deemed at fault are also now the same agencies, if not the same people, the same agencies that we're now supposed to trust and rely and count on to do honest, truthful, credible investigation and reporting of results.
So, Dr. Deborah, what is it that we don't know? I just want to go back to what you said. What is it that we don't know? So I know that you were talking about your neighbor and her husband developing cancer before um or developing cancer and it sped up by this by being exposed to this water, right? So what is it that we don't know? Is this is something that is attacking the immune system so tough that is what it does? It's that it that that it will speed up these things because in or is this and not or and is it this a thing that people are developing types of cancer from it as well?
So I think these are all great questions. And what I will tell you is a lack of good data will only fuel the debate.
Mm.
We don't honestly have the kind of systematic data that we need to powerfully answer those questions.
Okay.
The state has done now 2 iterations of a cancer investigation, which I have made public. I feel like there's a conflict of interest because the State Department of Health and Human Services and its former director are litigants in the Flint water crisis, both criminal and civil lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, how can you be the criminal and the lead investigator and reporter at the same time? There's a conflict of interest. What we have is a lot of anecdotal evidence, right? You talk to people and everybody's got a story to tell.
Yeah.
And they have stories to tell that don't jive with the stories that they told before the water crisis. The bar science is in establishing causality. In order to say A caused B, there's certain things that you have to demonstrate. The problem is we're not even collecting the kind of data and doing the kind of work where we could absolutely meet that bar. So we keep bumping up against people and saying, well, how can you prove it's the water? And I think as well, if without the resources to do the work, to do the research to answer that question, we won't be able to prove that. But it stands to reason. If everything remained the same. The big thing that happened was the water crisis. The water crisis is the likely culprit.
Absolutely. So I have an issue, right? Not with you, not with any of this. Well, I have an issue with the lack of data, but I have an issue right now as it relates to the money that has been coming into it that should have been allocated towards some of these things going to the water crisis. So now I have an issue that we are wanting to spend $16 million for blight. However, we are 8 years into this water crisis and we're not spending a dime for this research or for these things that keep coming up. For instance, because I really have those questions that I just asked you have been questions that I've had for a long time. And so the same, and the reason why I asked you is because I knew you were going to say we don't have the data, right? But I implore the constituents of Flint and the people that have been affected by this water crisis to ask these questions and continue to demand that this happens. We settled for a water settlement that's going to do absolutely nothing, and we're still in the position. And then we get lied to and be told that, well, it's better. We're not where we were. It's better. And then we get shame on Barack Obama sitting over and taking a sip of whatever the heck was in this cup, right? to say that it was good and it was okay. And so now people around the world think that we are not in this crisis, and we are. We are still. What do you propose that us as constituents of Flint start doing in order to demand this research be done? This particular research that you're speaking of.
So I think art has started a very important process. Is the agency at the CDC who investigates and will support investigation and help to fund investigation of exactly these types of questions. If the community raises concern, the agency is called ATSBR. Okay, let's see if I can get this right. It's the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry.
Okay.
ATSBR. That is the branch within the CDC that funds the Flint Lead Exposure Registry. They are also the agency that will fund what we call a cancer cluster study or a cancer investigation study in a community. They have a guideline for how that's done. They have a multi-step, four-step process, and it starts with community reporting and that community-based building and engagement work. Talking to people in communities, talking to people who, how we say, anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
We put enough anecdotes together, and we call that evidence in our world.
Absolutely.
So I think we got enough anecdotal evidence that something is going on, that we should be able to raise a flag and say, hey, we need resources and we need some support to be a systemic, comprehensive investigation. So when I say we don't have the data, here's what I mean. I mean, there are data that exist that can help us answer these questions. It's not the best data, but it does exist. We could be doing analyses of death records. We could be doing analyses of patient records and electronic health records. Mind you, none of these are perfect, because if somebody dies from a particular type of cancer, but in fact they have multiple cancers, we're now relying on the medical examiner to make sure that all of those cancers, which would have to be reflected in the health records, show up on the death record. So the data that's there are perfect, but I guarantee you, if you look, what we'll see is there's a strong enough signal that it's something more and something different. It's happening in Flint County after the water crisis than before the water crisis. Then we could use the funding to do the more in-depth work and actually talking to people and starting to track cases in real time.
I got you.
The issue with looking back in time is have what we have. But we can also talk to relatives of people who died. That takes money, especially the people who are trained in these investigative studies, to then do the interview with first degree and living relatives of people who died or people who moved, so you can then start to put that picture together for yourself and build a better, more robust, comprehensive patient record society. And those take resources. They take human resources. And I don't think this is the kind of stuff that they can do on volunteers. You can't do it on volunteers. These are paid positions and paraprofessionals and health professionals. We got MPA program at MSU, a fully online program we get a scholarship every year. That program is now accredited. It will be written process will be accredited there. And that's an incredible program. We have the MPA program at Flint. We got a whole bunch of bachelor students and nursing. We got plenty of human resources that could do the work. We can't do that for free.
Absolutely not.
Resources, and then we need a real community partner, community driven approach. See, the other problem I have with the state is that today is they kind of do this back and they go to a couple meetings and they ask questions and then they went off to the report. And then they did a follow-up report to that first report. But where was community in that? Like, where was community? The decisions that were made about what got excluded, what zip code you go down in, how you cut data and you segregated by race or not. These are the decisions that the community should have a voice in. You shouldn't be doing that work to people. You should be doing it with people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what's missing. So people need to be a demand for a prominent front row center seat at the table of decision making, resource allocation, and power.
I agree.
So Dr. Furrow, we have been through a lot here in the city, and it seems as if our voice is never heard in the city, and it seems like we are always taken advantage of here in the city of Flint. And it's like we don't care about people here in the city of Flint. Um, you and I was speaking earlier, and we speak about mental health. You and I, we have serious conversation. Race, racial disparity here in the is evident. We don't have black doctors. I was telling on the call the other day on the Zoom, 70% of one organization is predominantly white, and more they don't live in the city of Flint, so they don't know what we're going through. They don't know how we have to duck on floors, shootings at night, and all different types of things. So they can't really understand where the people in the city of Flint is coming from. When COVID shots were out, we didn't have internet, and seniors still using flip phones. They didn't know how to get on the internet, so the majority of the lines that you saw on the north side was predominantly white. You might have had
The booster shots and all the vaccination shots now, right? Is it hard now to get the booster shots and all that for COVID? I mean, we got 30 minutes left, and I really want to get a touch on COVID shots also. We talked about
I just saw something, and I know you're going to tell me the truth. For kids, able FDA made it. Yeah, out the head. Hey, I'm sorry, Satara.
Presented by Dr. Stephen Gilbert of the effectiveness of the vaccines for the pediatric population, the babies and the toddlers, and I just
hey, I know you're going to tell the truth on this, because I saw the effectiveness, and it's basically they might as well not even take a shot. Why? I mean, you give them
what it is that we take, and the
this is real small if they take the shot. So that's just my perspective of what I, read up and I saw, right? So I'm coming from Dr. Furholder for 6 and under. What was your take on that?
Well, like I said, I just saw this today. I've been in the pros of my own first thing, my personal life, and I haven't really looked at the data, but I do trust Dr. Wilson to know that this presented was accurate, and it was something like 50% for infants, for symptomatic infection. Symptomatic. That they might get infected, but they wouldn't be symptomatic. So 50% symptomatic, which raises the big question of how the effectiveness of preventing infection and all. I don't have that information. I might have to find that, and I'd be happy to dig a little deep, because I like to talk about what I actually know, and if I don't know. Even just the 50% effectiveness of symptomatic infection. Oh my God! I literally started to think immediately, what is the conversation that I'll be having with my daughter about her decision and whether or not to vaccinate my granddaughter, who's 8 months old. And I don't know yet. I'm gonna have to look a little bit. Okay. This is why I think it's so important to have local, trusted, credible messages. I literally, if I was not on the phone with promise you, I'm probably call it right. I will be on the phone with Dr. Jennifer Evers Johnson, who is the community dean at Flint. He's a practicing physician at McLaren. She's a family medicine physician, and she has two kids, both under the age of 6. And we will be unpacking and rolling up our sleeves on that. So if y'all invite me back, even for 15, 20 minutes, I'll bring Dr. EJ and we can talk about it, because I think it's important, and because you were I ain't getting that vaccine and blah, blah, blah. And I made no secret of it. When the vaccine first came out, I was like, you go. I had to grapple for a little bit. I was like, I was not at the front of the line, and I wasn't trying to push past somebody's grandma to get the vaccine either. I was like, I don't know enough yet. And then I learned a lot. And hey, Satara, see, that's the best thing. And that's why I'm recording stopped right here, because Satara, she hasn't taken the shot, and me and Satara, we try to make the show to where can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Oh, all right. So me and Satara try to make the show to where, she didn't take it, I did, and we try to have both sides, and I used you in one of the examples not too long ago where Dr. Furlong told me that she wasn't taking a booster. She wasn't taking a booster shot, and she's an advocate for the vaccination, but she wasn't taking the booster shot. So Satara isn't, I can let Satara speak for herself, but I was telling Satara that I was against it at first, and then I ended up taking it, getting my shot in a booster. But speaking with you is totally different. Why didn't you take the booster? Well, let me explain something first. So I actually got COVID in November. The Saturday after Thanksgiving, I went to a wedding in Wisconsin, and I contracted Omicron. And yes, so I actually got COVID. I was fully vaccinated, but I had not gotten a booster. I had just become booster eligible, and I was scheduled to get a booster once I got back from the wedding on that following Thursday. But in the interim, I contracted COVID, and I was at this event on Saturday. I had a mild symptom on Monday evening, just a little itch in my throat. And then by Tuesday, I had a terrible headache, a really scratchy throat. I was exhausted. Just walking to the bathroom, I was so tired and winded. So once I actually got my COVID test, and then I did get sequencing done, and it was confirmed that I had Omicron, I said, well, I go with the data. The data now says, and honestly, I don't like this idea of a mild case of COVID, because my actual symptoms were very manageable. I was very fatigued, but I was only fatigued if I exerted myself. And so guess what? I just didn't exert myself. My daughter used to say, Mommy, it hurt when I go like this. I said, well, don't go like that. I mean, it's just easy, right? You tired or you fatigued with exertion, don't exert yourself. So I pulled up a hospital tray, and I laid in bed for 2 weeks and ate chocolate ice cream and caught up with my favorite TV shows and did light duty. But I did have terrible brain fog for about 2.5 months following COVID. Even having this conversation with y'all, I would lose my train of thought. I would forget what I was going to say. Somebody would ask me a question. If the question was too long, by the time they finished the question, I couldn't remember the first part of the question. And it really bothered me, and it scared me, because I thought, oh, that was what that headache was. That headache was that virus binding to those H2 receptors in my brain and eating away at my brain. And now it's going to take some time for my brain to kind of rewire itself and work around those pieces that are probably dead now before I kill myself. And I just was worried, because I was like, what if I don't ever return back to feeling like myself? And I did. I feel like I'm back, but I was not willing to get a booster for 3 or 4 months, because I thought I've already had the vaccine. Now I've contracted COVID. And I looked at the data, say those people have it after a few weeks. responses. So I was unwilling to do one more thing. So I was unwilling to do one more thing that would overexcite my immune system. Protection now. I have protection now. I have at least 3 or 4 months protection from my infection and recovery from infection. So I was unwilling. And it, created a little bit of problem for me because they had a mandate for boosters at my university. And I did apply for an exception and said I would like to not be forced to get vaccinated until at least I pass the 3-month window following resolution of my own infection. Because the data say I don't need it. The data say there's no added benefit for me. And I just wasn't quite comfortable with doing it being no added harm. But I did subsequently get my booster at month 4. At month 4, I did get my booster shot, and I didn't have any side effects. I don't know. I didn't have any side effects or any injury from that vaccine. Did it do me some good? I don't know. My concern with the vaccine is that the vaccine has not evolved. That we are giving the same vaccine that we were giving based on the genetic profile of the virus that is mutated so much. I'm like, how do you keep the same vaccine? That vaccine was built to protect us against strains that no longer exist. 100% of the cases in the U.S. are Omicron or one of its subvariants. 100% of the cases. When are the next generation of vaccines going to be produced that are going to be more specific and relevant to the strains of COVID that we have now? So I will likely not be getting a second booster unless there's another more relevant to the strains now vaccine available.
So Dr. Deborah, I as Art said, I have not taken the vaccine, the initial first 2 shots or booster. So I was totally, I was terrified. I can be totally honest that I was terrified. And I was so terrified of getting COVID, but I think I was more terrified of because when you research and that COVID is not new, right? It's been around. And so with that being said, I was terrified more of the vaccine because I'm like, this is not new. Why are we doing this now? So it scared me. So, and then to me, it just happened so fast. Now, again, because I'm not a doctor, but what I've seen and seen it come real fast. And so I felt like just when they put a new car on the line, like when they built the new Blazer all over again, I'm not taking that first one that can roll off the line. I'm gonna wait till they work the bugs out. But now I thought about it, and I was going to. My grandmother was sick, but my grandmother passed, and I was going to because of that. Because like I said, I would have done anything to continue to be around her and see her. However, now I'm at the point where you are. It's not evolving. It's not going to protect me from what's out here right now. What's the benefit for me? I can't find enough data to say that it's beneficial for me, so I won't do it. That's where I'm at right now.
That's real. Yeah. I will tell you, I evolved in my own, even speaking about it, and it's why I really built some strong partnerships with people like Dr. EJ. I'm in a group of people like me, epidemiologists, and epidemiologists study epidemics. Right? This is what we train for. Epidemics and violence epidemics, outbreaks of violence, and things like that. So, but the same skill set that you use to investigate outbreaks, it works no matter what the disease or disorder, or if it's a virus or if it's a behavioral phenomenon. You have a syphilis outbreak in a community, but that syphilis outbreak is a function of people having sex and unprotected sex, right?
Right.
So I've been leaning on a group of experts all across the country, and we share data, we share information. And my only thing was this. It used to break my heart when people would say, I'm not getting it because it's going to change my DNA. Now, I know that that's not true.
Okay.
I know that that's not true. And I also understand who the heck has heard of mRNA been out of high school for more than 5 years.
Right.
I remember.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong, I have a natural sciences degree. I was natural sciences, public health, pre-med. So I've got a strong kind of medical undertraining, right? I'm not a medical doctor, I'm a PhD, but I have a natural sciences bachelor's degree. And then I did all of the basic genetics, virology, molecular biology and immunology training as a part of my doctoral training in public health.
Right.
mRNA, and I know that it's not going to change people's DNA. And so I had to be patient with people and explain those things to them. And I'm really mad at our government because I'm like, y'all knew this was coming. mRNA vaccine technology has been under development for almost a decade. But then we get this new strain of coronavirus. Remember, we already had SARS. We called SARS SARS-CoV-1. That's what SARS was. SARS-CoV-1.
Okay.
It's SARS-CoV-1.
Okay.
You're right. It's not new to us. You're right. It's not new to us. And as a matter of fact, it's coronavirus. The common cold is in the family of coronaviruses. So I was really intent that people, and I didn't start off this way, honestly. I started off more like, y'all gotta do this vaccine. Because I was watching people die and get sick. Disproportionately compared to their white peers. And I'm like, this don't make sense. This don't make sense. But then I realized that wasn't the right answer either. Because you don't have to have a PhD to do that. Captain of your own health. You are responsible for what goes in your body and what you put in it and how much you move your arms and legs. I tell everybody, you are the master of your own health fate and the captain of your own destiny. People need the resources that they need to stay healthy, whether it be access to high quality, affordable food that they can easily get to and afford. But people are making decisions between food and medicine.
Right.
Like, some of the stuff that I realized we were trying to do is tone deaf to the real experiences that people have in life. And then the notion that the virus will change my DNA. I'm like, I know it ain't. But I'm like, I can see why somebody would say that.
Yeah.
I can see why somebody would say that.
Right.
We're talking about a government that has historically done bad things to black and brown people.
Absolutely.
And never been held to account for.
Yes.
They gave those survivors of the survivors. Many of the men in that study died. And some of those men gave sisters to their wives. And they got sick. And they developed dementia when they died. So giving these survivors benefits people, what is the value of a human life? My mother died in 2010. So 12 years ago, I would give anything to have one more year. There's no amount of money that anybody could offer. They could offer me $1 billion. I would pass any amount of money to have one more year with my mother. Have me and my mother sit down and read a book together to my granddaughter and her great granddaughter.
Yeah.
So the notion that you can just throw money at people after you wrong them, especially after you wrong them in a way that's irreparable. When you wrong somebody and you cause their death, you can't make that right.
Absolutely.
So I understand and I respect that people are a no. My only thing was to make sure that people were a no based on fact. And as long as people got their facts straight, mind you, even for the people, I have cousins who are like, you can say whatever you want. That shit gonna change. That stuff gonna change my DNA.
Yeah.
I say, okay, that's done. We don't have to keep talking about that. And I have a lot of people saying, Dr. Deb, I understand. It ain't going to change my DNA. I believe you on that. But I also know that vaccine injury is real. I know that feels underplayed. I know I've heard enough stories of people who had more than a sore arm and spiked the fever after they got that vaccine. So I'm still a no. I'm still in a wait. Let's wait and see. And what I've also noticed that I think is pretty cool is I've watched a lot of people say, I'm a no to your vaccine, but I am going to take the reins of my health. So I am my diet. eat better quality food, eat food that's higher in vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that I need. I am going to do some of the work to take on my own personal health. You know how many people I know who started taking vitamin D? You know, we're all vitamin D deficient.
Mm-hmm.
In places that are real hot and real cold, we're all vitamin D deficient. Why? Because in the wintertime, we're all inside. Most of your vitamin D from, you get some of it from food, but most of you get it from sun exposure, and the sun breaks down this fatty layer under your skin and releases vitamin D in your body. So most of us are vitamin D deficient in Michigan and cold places during the winter. So there are other conversations that we also could have been having during COVID that we just weren't having. I was having them, but as a nation, we weren't having them. The White House wasn't having them. The COVID task force wasn't putting those things out. We missed the chance to be really empowering people around. If you are a no, instead of blaming the people who are a no and calling it a pandemic of the unvaccinated, which I never agreed with, why don't we make sure that people are properly resourced just to be well and healthy overall? Just having a strong immune system, being physically fit, having good cardiovascular fitness is your best opportunity individually fight off COVID, all disease.
But
We don't talk about that.
you know what, Dr. Farholden, I'm gonna say it like this though. After looking over into China and how they locking people into their apartment and how they fighting, and I mean it's real. COVID is real, and you hear people saying, "Well, eat a couple of carrots and take some D3 and some zinc, and you're gonna be able to fight it." I guess I wasn't advocating at first. I think there's going to be a spike. I think hospitalization is up now. I think it's up to 20%. Up 20%. Cases are up. I think this next surge that we have, I think it's going to be something different. Me myself. So I mean, if we can warn the people now, because I mean it catches us off guard every time, and then we have to lock down. Our economy goes down, everything goes down, and I don't know. I mean, this virus to me seems like it has a brain of its own, and it says, "All right, you know what? I'm getting ready to go take on the characteristics of all the other variants." Because they think they slick and they getting vaccines and building up their immune system. So I'm gonna go back and get all the other variants and take on the characteristics. And I'm gonna come back stronger this time and go around their immune system. I mean, oh, I thought somebody was saying something. That's just me. I mean, I'm just watching, and I've been asking questions by COVID taking oxygen out your blood. Does your brain need what 20% of the oxygen in your body? Uh, and if it takes oxygen out your blood and it's not going to your brain, it creates dead cells, brain cells, within 5 minutes. And people running around here crazy right now. I'm thinking that the COVID did that to them. Me myself.
Hmm. Well, I, I don't know. You know, I know she studies that, and she that's definitely her lane. But I think that there's some validity in that. Like you said, people are going crazy. I think it's some validity in that. As a matter of fact, it seems that there is anyway.
Is she still online? Is Dr. Farholden, you still here?
No, I'm
Oh, okay. Okay. We got 4 minutes left, and I'm gonna let you and Satara take us on out.
Well, Dr. Deborah, it has been an absolute pleasure, 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 pleasure to speak with you about this. We definitely have to have you back so we can continue the conversation, and maybe you'll have some different data for us as it relates to the water crisis and with COVID and vaccinations. So we would love to have you back when you get a chance and you get that data. Is there any last words? Anything that you would like to say, heading on out?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
always
always
remind
remind
people
people
you
you
have
have
power.
power.
And
A lot of times, when people lose their power or they feel that they've lost their power, that can be just as devastating to one's well-being as a physical pathogen, right? So having the spirit be troubled and all of that is troubling. And we know when people are sad, when people are feel like they've been assaulted, that they've been lied to, when you can't trust your basic government, when you don't trust your local health department, that's a hard way to be. So I remind people that you do have some power. And you've got power in your vote,
you got
you've got power in your pocket, and you've got power with your voice.
I think
I think it really is time for people to be a demand of what they want and need. Unfortunately, and I don't think this is a phenomenon that's unique to Flint, but I do say the impact of it is more impactful in Flint. People treat elections like a popularity contest,
and they
and they
vote
vote for the people that they like.
Personal
Like, don't
relationship.
worry about who you like. Worry about their track record.
Absolutely.
what promises are they making and what
What
have
are they making and what have they done? And do they have a track record of doing what they say they'll do?
way
That's
more important to me
way more
than whether
important
or
to
not
me
I like
than whether or not I like you.
Absolutely.
So you got power,
So you got power.
power in
You
the
got
pocket,
power in the
power
pocket,
in the vote,
power in the vote,
voice, and the
voice,
power of
and the
many
power
voices
of many
will
voices
always
will
outweigh the
always
power
outweigh the power of just one
So
voice.
get with your
So
folks.
get with your
Everybody
folks.
has
Everybody has an affinity group, a church
a
group,
family,
a family, a sorority, a group of co-workers. Like, get together, stand for something, or you'll fall for
That's
anything.
right.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
So you say you and Dr. EJ gonna unpack that 6 and under vaccination shot?
I will
I
call
will
her
call her right when we're done and be like, Dr. EJ, let's take a look. Because she's going to have to make these decisions for her baby. And I will be a trusted messenger with my daughter as she makes the decision for her baby.
So next week,
Yes. So I have to come back and I'll get back to EJ.
So next week, Satara, you want to bring Dr. EJ and Dr. Furholden on, and we're gonna talk about
Absolutely.
your favorite thing is mental health and the
Absolutely.
vaccine for under 6. And take us on out with thank you. It's 6 o'clock, and we on.
Thank you. We appreciate you. We expect you to come back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel at 14:20 a.m. at 5 p.m. with Empower with Art and Satara. You all have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
It's 5 p.m.